everybody. I want to thank everybody for taking time to stop by, check out another check-in video. I'm playing around with the format of it some. I have some equipment around that kind of was being underutilized or wasn't being utilized, so I'm taking advantage of it, including a new camera here, as well as some software for recording desktop to get a higher resolution for people that were having problems like reading text for when that was applicable, when there were things on screen to read. And part of the problem was that previously I'm uploading to YouTube in 1080 and I'm recording my screen in 1080, but my screen is much wider than a 1080 screen. You see here, this is the screen that I'm usually recording from, so using a 1080 signal from that was really compressing it, making the text hard to read for people. So hopefully that'll be fixed in this video. Something else I want to bring up, there's been a lot of issues with exclusive mode lately. In my last video, I thought it was part of a Windows update that was pushed, but people are coming back and saying that they're not having issues with it, and they are on the latest Windows 10 builds. So I'm pretty much out of ideas as to what it could be then, because I've got almost a completely blank system here. I installed Windows, updated it all the way, and then installed just some of my basic applications. I got my Visual Studio that I use for my software design, and then I got Origin and Steam, and then a couple other small apps. But other than that, nothing that I would think would really be affecting that. So unless Origin did something in one of their latest updates that could be installing something in the background that's playing around with device drivers or something like that, unless it's that, then like I said, I'm completely at a loss. But it's kind of a moot point anyways, because I still really want to wash my hands of that stuff, because this is yet another example of it's so hard to pin down what the cause can be, and then even harder to come up with a workaround or a solution, or if it's even possible. So it's like I said, I really, the exclusive mode stuff, I really have to stop concentrating on that, because these hacks that I'm coming up with that are supposedly fixing them are actually creating instability in the program and causing bugs, issues like in the last update, where the controller, every time you would power it on, it would power itself off immediately, and you'd be stuck in a cycle where you're trying to power it on. That can be caused in certain circumstances, though not all. So I mean, stuff like that, it's easier. It's not only easier, obviously, but in the long run actually better if I just leave that stuff up to something that's more capable, such as the drivers that Benjamin's working on, the HID Guardian. Those are still early alpha, not entirely ready for widespread use. There's certain circumstances, I guess, where those drivers can cause issues on people's computers, make them unstable. Personally, I haven't had any issue with them. They work flawlessly for me, but my situation is not everybody else's situation, so results may vary. Along with that, I want to again recommend this. This is the Sony wireless dongle for DualShock 4s, and this unfortunately Bluetooth does not work with HID Guardian. I'm not sure if it will in the future, but right now it does not. But this, however, does. And this, coupled with HID Guardian, on top of this device's ability to more easily pair with a DualShock 4, offer better latency, better signal, as well as wireless audio support. All those things make this a wonderful device to have, if you can afford the extra money for it as compared to a Bluetooth dongle. But these aren't terribly expensive. I think I got this one for about $18, $19, and I think they might have dropped a couple more dollars since then. So I'll put the link below for an Amazon store where you can get one of these, and I'll take a look at the price. But yeah, I mean, you can only, the only drawback with this is you can only pair one device to it. You can, however, get multiple ones of these and have one controller for each one, and InputMapper 1.7 supports that. But unfortunately, one dongle per controller. But it's not a horrible thing considering what you benefit. The signal on these is rock solid, much farther than Bluetooth goes. I can go several rooms away and this will still work, audio and everything. That and you get your exclusive mode without any fuss. So all those are great reasons to start using one of these. So with all that said and out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and show off what I did this week in InputMapper. Plug this guy back in. And we're going to start up InputMapper here. And even here you can see connected, no exclusive mode issues. It just works right out of the box. It's fantastic. One of the things that was brought up to me was some DPI issues with the on-screen keyboard that I'm developing. That has hopefully been fixed. I tested out as best as I could on my end. I'd still like a couple more people, with their varying resolutions to get back to me and tell me how it works for them. But I believe it is fixed. So I'll go ahead and launch the on-screen keyboard here. And a couple more things that have changed. Shifted the layout around just a tad. I have also added support for previously the pointers were determined by the absolute position of the sticks. Now there's an option where it translates to delta, meaning I move the pointer somewhere, I let go, and the pointer stops. And this actually might be better for some people. Actually, I prefer this method myself. It seems easier to control, a little more precise, less jittery. I've also added some the settings menus over here now, some general kind of look and feel options. You can swap between the methods here, so I can go back to absolute, and that does the thing where the pointers snap back to the center when I release the sticks. I'll keep it on delta as I prefer that. Opacity was in there before, but now we also have you can change the scale of it on the fly, as well as for monitors where you want it maybe tucked away in the corner, or you just want to change the position of it some. You have full positional controls here, left, right, up, and down. So that works. I've also added the keyboard codes for the first page of the symbols here. I still have more symbols to add, and a second page as well as the codes for those. Still have not gotten to the emotes or the chat options yet. I'm still thinking of what I want to do with those implementation wise. So that's it for the keyboard. Actually, there's one other thing kind of related to the keyboard. Prior to the next release that's coming out, bringing up the keyboard would stop all controller inputs, which it still does, but it used to block the touchpad as a mouse, and I brought that back because you might want to still use the mouse even if you have your on-screen keyboard up. So, but it'll still block all the actual game inputs. It'll just keep the mouse inputs. So, that's it for that side of things. Another thing that I'm working on is, as much as I tried to make the macros its own entity and globally capable, meaning it existed outside of the profiles, instead of making things easier, both programming, implementation, and on the user side, it started to get so complex as to how I would have to isolate controllers to say whether or not the macro has fired for that controller or this controller or that controller. It actually started to make things more difficult, much more difficult from a programming standpoint, and more difficult in a UI sense, as people were having to specify specific devices for each control trigger that they wanted to create, and I didn't like that. So I'm in the process of moving the macros back into the profile section of InputMapper, which is what people are used to in 1.6. And unfortunately, it means, I wasted some time bringing it globally and then moving it back, but I mean, that's just kind of development. So it'll take me a couple weeks to get the code back to where it's pulling that information from the profiles, and to set it up so it's detecting local controllers within that profile instead of trying to reach out globally again. So that set me back a little bit, but in the end, it's just what I have to do because the global macros are not going to work out the way I was kind of hoping they would. I am going to still do, I'm going to come up with something. The whole reason I wanted to do global macros was sometimes there were things set up that people wanted to use, regardless of profile, that just kind of worked on their computer in any input, no matter, what you're doing, what game you're in, so on and so forth. And since, global macros isn't working out, I'm going to find an easier way to export and import macros into the profiles themselves. So you can export it as like an individual macro file. You can even distribute it to other people, share it online, and they can import that individual file. So as well as importing and exporting directly to and from other profiles within InputMapper. So hopefully that should clear up the ease of use issue that I was aiming for when I went for the global macros to begin with. So, but that'll about do it for today. One more thing I want to point out before I let everybody go is I want to urge everybody to use the online feature request and bug reporting system. I implemented this a couple weeks ago, and some people have been taking use of it. And it's pretty much shows pretty good snapshot of where development stands for InputMapper 1.7. And I mean, if you have any issues with it, if you go over to the site and you go to the bug reporting section, if it's not listed there, I don't know about it. So please, help me out. And in return, you're helping yourself out by getting a more stable build of InputMapper. If you see any quirks or something behaving, not the way that you believe it should, let me know. If it's something specific to your system, we'll work it out. But if it's a bug with InputMapper, I need to know about it to fix it. So yeah, guys, make use of the system. I put it up there for a reason. Alright guys, so that'll do it. I'm going to hopefully set up here, do some Tipsy Tuesdays, and play some Mass Effect Andromeda. So I'll see everybody shortly. Have a good one.